Hello everyone, welcome to a new part in this series. Today we're going to do a boss battle. The aim here is basically to create a multi-stage battle. So at about halfway through his health, the boss will basically start his second life. And the animations I'm using for that are completely optional. You can pick whatever you want. The whole point is to basically start a second phase. How you do this is obviously completely up to you, and that really doesn't matter all that much. So, you can pick whatever you want. The whole concept is the behavior here and how we're going to handle that behavior. Now, if you're going to follow along exactly the way I do it, there's some custom animations that I've added in the description as well, which will help for these initial phases where, the boss is going to stand up, etc. So before we get started, I'd like to thank all of my Patreon supporters for the amazing support. So first things first, we're simply going to duplicate the NPC here. I'm going to turn off the default one, and let's rename this one to boss. Just like previously, we're going to have the behavior actually assign the model. In this case, we don't really have to do that. It's just, why not? We've done it for everything else. Now, I'm going to use a prefab there that I've created for the boss. And the clue is it's basically just a standard human male that I've, as you can see, scaled up to 1.5. I've just enabled some of the body parts, the armor parts here, and change the materials. So I'll let you have a look. I mean, there's nothing special going on here. So duplicated the original materials, of course, and then just I changed his skin to gray. Kept the mask and the normal map just to not get rid of the details. But basically, that's what he looks like. Nothing all that special. I just, again, didn't want to use too many packs here. And the idea is basically to just have a big knight against us. That looks, at least slightly menacing, so pretty cool. But yeah, it's just, a base human male like we had before, but just, with the wardrobe, and I just enabled some of these parts, and just a mix and match. Obviously, if you have some of the armor packs, you can do way cooler, so you can give him, even better gear. I just chose to do it like this because, it works. It's a boss. It's nothing all that special. The nice thing here is just having the scale. I would like to highlight that the bigger you go with the scale, the harder it will be for the melee attacks to properly hit. So something to keep in mind in that sense. So do keep that in mind, please, because that's if you're going to scale him 3, which looks really cool, it will become a bit harder to actually have the battle. So yeah, this is already quite big, as you can see. It's a tall character, and I think this is big enough. But you can make it as big as you want, but you might run into some complications. Other than that, it's just a human male prefab with some clothes and a simple gray material, and that's it. So nothing special. It's not really about the model itself in this case. I just didn't want to use too many packs here. So the most important thing obviously is going to be the behavior. That's going to basically dictate the stages. But what we will need to do as well is we'll need to change the way his UI is displayed. So this is the default UI on an NPC we created. What we're going to do here for the canvas, we're going to create it as being a full screen. So scale with screen size 1920 by 1080. That's what I'm doing. You can, again, scale it to whatever you want. We can get rid of these triggers, these actions. It doesn't need to rotate at all. On block, all of that, we can get rid of that. We literally just don't need it. So when it comes to these, we can just get rid of that. even the shield icon. Cool. So we'll need to look at the way it looks in full screen. Now, obviously, I'm going to hit play mode once because the scaling doesn't seem right. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just in my head. So yeah, obviously this is way too small. So we have our bar here for the health bar, and it's just way too small. So we need to make that a bit bigger. So let's try something out. 300 by 20. Still seems a bit small. Now all of these are the same size except for the text, of course. So I'm going to select all of these, and we'll try 600. Yeah, that's better. By 30. I'm okay with that. I think that's good enough. I'm going to drag this down. Yeah, that's pretty good. When it comes to the text, obviously the text will be too small, so we'll need to make that quite a lot bigger as well. So if it was 612, let's just scale it like this. There we go. Perfect. The text has to be, yeah, about this size. 170. That seems about right. As you can see, it's actually reversed. So that's one of the things we'll need to change. So that's here on the health bar. Just flip it back to its original value. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It will basically now just become a full screen health bar, which is done for boss battles in the Souls games. It also, shows the importance. This is going to be a boss. You need to kind of highlight that. We're also going to change his vitality. So standard, I had that to 5,000, which is already high for normal NPCs, I'm aware. But in comparison, I'm just going to do 10,000, which isn't all that crazy more, but otherwise for the purpose of the video, it'll just take a bit too long before we reach those that second stage. So I'm going to leave it at 10,000 just to at least see if it's challenging or not. But yeah, for the actual boss, comparison, you might want to do 20, but otherwise it would just take a bit too long. Cool. So that's it for the canvas. We're done with that. Now, the only thing we do need to change, obviously, is this trigger. So when it was a target, it would actually highlight the canvas. Now we're going to change that, and we're going to do a local variable. We haven't created this one yet, just so you're aware. And I'm going to call it start. So we still need to create that. And then canvas, which ones are they? Conditions canvas. The on-hit ones, by the way, we can just remove as well. It's not going to do anything, so we can remove that here too. But yeah, when it comes to the conditions, we need to change just the name of the variable. So local. I'm not sure if Invoker's going to work, but we'll see that. It's going to be bool, of course. Sorry about that. Bool, local variable, invoker, start. If that's true, it's going to turn on. And then if it's not, if we're no longer in focus, but is start, if is turned off, is going to turn off again. And yeah, that's literally it. That's all we're gonna do. So yeah, perfect. Really simple. Now, obviously, we still need to create that variable. We're not going to add it here to his local variables. It will become part of his behavior. If we can do that, we should do that. So let's start off with that behavior. So I'll go to behavior, and then we're going to create a new behavior tree. boss 01. I'm just going to call it boss 01 because this will be the first boss. And yeah, we can start off. Now, there will be several things that will be quite similar to what we did in the previous behavior, of course. Not saying everything, because obviously it won't be. But several things will appear quite similar. And that's because, some of these things just work well, even if it's a boss. Some other things won't work well at all because he is a boss, so they won't be as applicable. We're going to start off with a selector. It's pretty default, and we're going to have a task here, which will be our task for setting the character model. We're going to have another task here for his idle state. There we go. We're going to have a selector here. There we go. This will be our combat selector. So once we actually, start this battle, what is going to happen next? Then, just like the other behavior, we're going to have a task here that, has an impact on the health. In the previous case of the normal NPCs, if their health, if they got hit a couple of times, they would actually, jump back. In this case, we're going to use it for something else entirely. Once his health hits 50% of his total health, he's going to go into phase 2 of the boss battle. And then here we're going to have the default, what happens if he dies, or if his health is 0%. And that's it. That's the default. I'm not sure what happened there. Sorry, I lost it. That's the default split. So let's start off with the basics. So unarmed, and let's make sure we select the melee one, by the way. It's quite important. So if the invoker is unarmed, what is he going to do? So we're going to change the character model. Invoker, and I'm just going to drag in the prefab I created. If you have a better prefab, more exciting one, please go ahead, use it. He's then going to draw a weapon. That's a weapon we still need to create. So for now, we'll just leave that empty. And then once he's done that, we're basically going to have his idle state, and that is going to be slightly different. In this case, I want his idle to be like, kneel down, a bit similar to the boss in Dark Souls 3, the very first one. Not the same, of course, but a bit similar. So I thought it was going to be cool. So yeah, the requirement will be the same. So in this case, he will need to be armed, of course. And we're going to reference that bool that I created, that I mentioned before. We're going to create that now. So that's going to be the start bool. There we go. So yeah, we don't need others yet. So that's going to be that start bool. So we need to reference to that. We can collapse the blackboard for now. So bool. Invoker, and in this case, considering he's going to be in a statue mode, if you will, start is going to be false, so it's not going to be turned on. Then he's going to basically go into a idle state. So let's do idle. Let's do a state. Sorry, character state. Invoker. And we're going to use the state asset. Now, again, like I mentioned, I'm going to share the clips that that I did in UMotion Pro. If you want to use the exact same ones, but I'll share what it looks like, of course. So I'm going to drag that in, and that's the wrong one. There we go. But I'm going to share what that looks like just so you have a proper, proper comparison. So basically the crouched is really, really simple. So he's just sitting crouched like that. And this is going to be the get up. So this is when he gets up and reverts to the default. So yeah, really pretty simple stuff. Nothing all too exciting. So yeah, we have that. So that's going to be his state. Then next up, the selector. As you might have guessed, we're going to use the same condition here again. And we're going to use this same bool, but in this case, it's true. So this is the case where the battle will start and combat will begin. So this is obviously going to be the more exciting part. Let's have a look. So we're going to go selector again, and we're going to do another task. Now, the reason we have this this selector again and the separation is because we need time for this animation to end and him to properly get up, etc., etc. And that needs to look good. It needs to look good. Just like in the first Dark Souls 3 boss, it actually allows us to do a couple of hits while he's actually getting up in that animation, which I thought was going to be cool as well. Again, a bit similar. So we'll need another bool for that, which is basically going to be combat. So the first bool is start. So that means literally when is he going to start actually doing something. The second bool is when is he going to go into combat mode. So that means that we can copy this one over, set it for both. And bool combat. Now we can turn this to, if it's not active, and, this to be if it's active. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to make him get up in this phase. So this is what will trigger him to go into this combat mode. But before we do any of that, let's make sure we actually have something that triggers him, that triggers him getting up. And let's see if it actually works as well, because, that would be nice. So in order to do that, I'm just going to duplicate. Yes, I'm going to duplicate NPC shield here. There we go. Perfect. We're going to call this boss 1. We can rename the weapon to boss 1 as well. Boss 1 and boss 1. So let's drag that in. There we go. So what we can do now is we can switch off that 2D mode, get to our boss, and I'm just going to select it like this. And I'm going to add a new trigger. And the trigger is going to be a really, really simple one. So it's going to be distance based. So yeah, that's big enough. Player enter. Bool. It's not going to work like that. So yeah, I'll need to do it slightly differently. That's kind of annoying. Wait, what the hell? So we're going to add a trigger here. So trigger starts, just to keep the naming convention simple. This is a fine radius. Now let's make sure we also have this new behavior actually on the character. Boss1. There we go. So we have start and combat. Then on player enter, we're going to have a simple action. It's going to be do a variable bool local and start, and that's it. So it will be a very simple, proximity-based trigger that will trigger the boss to actually go do something. So yeah, let's see if this this state is actually working and he remains in his idle and he's all good. And it's not working, and that makes a lot of sense. We didn't set any conditions for this yet, so let's make sure we do that first. Going to set the simplest one, so attribute value, invoker health is percentage less or equal, and it's quite important. I'm going to do 499. And in this case, not percentage, if its value is less or equal to 0. There we go. That should prevent these from triggering, and technically we should get into that state. So let's hope that works. Perfect. Now, obviously, it is going to be the wrong. It's going to be the wrong weapon that he has, but that's absolutely okay. So he's in his kneeled state. Now, in order for the animation to look slightly better, I am also going to turn off head IK, simply because otherwise he'll keep looking forward towards the player. And if we do this now, you will see that he actually looks towards the ground, like the animation like is intended. That's how it's supposed to be. He's supposed to look down, and yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. It's it's not perfect, but it looks pretty cool. And yeah, the get up is basically going to be a follow-up on this, where he's going to get up. Now that's going to look really cool, so let's work on that. There's going to be quite a lot of steps actually in order for this to look good, which is completely fine. So we're going to start off with there we go. We're going to start off with a gesture, and the reason I'm doing a gesture and not an exit clip on the state is simply because it looks better. And I know that's a bit strange, but it actually looks better. There's there's no gap or anything like that, so it simply just looks better. So we need the fade-ins to be 0 in this case. We need that to complete as well, and we're going to do the get up animation that is linked in the description. And yeah, he'll use this and get up, and that looks nice. Then we're going to do another state. And this is going to be his locomotion state. Now, like I mentioned before, I am going to keep it a bit simple. So the first state is simply going to be a state of, two-handed combat. We already created that for our character, so we're going to do that as well. Use that again. We need to change it a bit, so we can't just simply use this one. So let's duplicate it, drag it into boss, rename it boss 01. And what we need to do is we need to remove these. So the exit enter, that's for stance switching, which we do on, on the player. However, for the boss, that's something we shouldn't be using. So there we go. So it will be the same animations. I like that, because in the first stage, he's just going to be a traditional knight type character. So we can just use that one. So now we can reference to that as well. So we're going to change his state with absolutely 0 transition time. Keep in mind, it's only going to trigger once this is completed. Quite important. Then we're going to wait 1 second and we're going to trigger our bool of combat. Now, the reason I do the 1 second is because just like the other NPCs, he will target the player. And if you don't have a small wait, it would just look a bit stranger, basically. So it's kind of like a transition time for the focus to kick in. It just looks slightly better. And yeah, combat, that's going to trigger. So now we'll have this being true. And this is the time for us to really start focusing on the combat, which is going to be the biggest part of the behavior, of course. Now, I'm going to split this up already into 2 stages. So the 2 stages will basically be phase 1 and phase 2, pretty much. And I'm going to use it like this. Just to make sure it can not trigger otherwise. Percentage of health is greater or equal to 0.5. Then it will trigger this, which is basically going to be the first stage. For the second stage, it's going to be phase 2. And phase 2 is going to be another variable. So let's create that. That's phase 2, so we can just copy this one over. There we go. And phase 2 is true. That will be the differentiator. The types of combat will be similar. It's just going to be different types of animations we're going to use, etc., etc. So both of these need to become parallels as well. So we'll do a parallel here, a parallel there. Going to have a task here, which is going to be our focus task. Just like in the other NPC video, is character attacking? Perfect. Is going to be a condition, so he's not going to target otherwise. There we go. Set on target on the player. And then we have our random selector, which is going to be performing the tasks. Random selector. And in this case, the random selector task will be slightly different. So let's have it split up here. There we go. So basically, boss battles in a way are they're supposed to be hard, for multiple reasons. However, damage output is going to be a big one. However, they do need to be predictable in a way. So not from the start. So, if you die the first time, that's completely fine. But you need to basically be able to learn their behavior. And that's the whole point of it. they shouldn't be too easy. They also shouldn't be so difficult that you just want to throw your mouse, keyboard, controller, whatever you're using away either. I mean, at least that's my opinion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that there are gaps basically between his defense and his state of attack that are kind of predictable, but because he has so much health, you're going to try to push the limit of, you know, taking advantage of that gap. And that's basically where the tricky part comes in. That will make it so that, you know, it will be, you know, high risk, high reward kind of thing. So I think that's a good approach, but that's just my personal opinion. Obviously, you can do whatever you want. We also do need him to move to the player, of course, so we're going to have that same condition. If he's not attacking, he's just going to move to the player. We're going to use our global variable for this player. And a stop threshold of 2. Now we still do need to create his weapon, of course, but as you might imagine, you know, the character is scaled a bit bigger, so the weapon will be as well. So in this case, going to use a distance below of 3 for the attacks. And the reason for that is simple. You know, the weapon is a bit bigger, so rather than 2.5, we can use 3. You know, 2.5 is what we used for the normal behavior. But yeah, this weapon is bigger, so we can use 3. There we go. And when it comes to you know, his actual actions, it's going to be it's going to be a rather simple one. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to do a wait of 1 second. You know, we need to have our little gap. Then we're going to start blocking. The invoker is going to start blocking. We're going to have a wait of 2 seconds where he's in block state. We're going to stop blocking. And then we're going to do input melee attack. We haven't created these clips yet, by the way, if you're wondering. We haven't, so that's what we're going to do. But we don't need to create the clips in advance to already determine what we're going to do here. So we're going to do, I don't know, B for this one. Wait 2 seconds. This will allow him to give some time to for this, basically, for the focus. Otherwise, he's just going to smack ahead all the time. So yeah, the wait of 2 seconds. And yeah, we're good there. So, you know, as you can see, there is going to be a small gap between this in terms of the animations, because these are slow animations, where we can actually attack him, but there will be small gaps, not the biggest one. So like I said, high risk, high reward. Then we're going to do a wait of 2, and that's a bit longer, and there's a reason for that, is because in this case he's just going to do an attack without any wait, so without any blocking. So the idea is, you know, if you see him being idle for a bit longer, you can anticipate that he's just going to do a you know, attack straight away. If there's hardly any wait and he just starts blocking, you know, that's basically the moment he's going to be attacking. So yeah, we can copy all of this over, actually. For this one, the order doesn't matter, it's just easier to copy over. And what did we do? Stop blocking. And in this case, instead of, you know, B, we're going to do A, wait 1 second, and then A again. And we're doing the same 2 seconds at the end. Cool. And that's pretty much it for the first phase. So that's going to be all. Again, it's it's not crazy elaborate, but there's enough variation. The whole clue here is basically having a two-stage boss. That's what it's about. So let's save this. And let's get him a weapon first before we go test something. Let's actually give him a weapon that that matches, because otherwise it's just going to look crazy. So I will be using Infinity PBR's models for this. I'm going to weapons and armor, prefabs, and I'm going to go for something that's going to be a bit tall. Looks like a big weapon at least. So it's going to be. I thought it was one of the staffs. Could be wrong. Not a staff. Spare. Yeah, there we go. I'll be using this one. It's a big weapon. Obviously, it will be bigger because we're going to scale it anyway. But yeah, that will look quite good. So let's open up our prefab here. There we go. And we're going to drop that in. So spare one, and there we go. Now we're going to set all of these values to 0. So he's going to be well aligned. There we go. Yes, we'll make it bigger as well, as the character is bigger, so the weapon needs to be bigger. Perfect. Then when it comes to the positioning, I have some values that work for this character. So if you're using a different character, you'll have to align this yourself, obviously. But yeah, that makes sense. There we go. And when it comes to the rotation, it's actually quite simple in this case, which is nice for a change. And there we go. Perfect. Let's make sure Gizmos is turned on. We need to change this box component. And I'm going to align it something like this. Sorry. And I'm going to make it a bit bigger, so we actually have this as an entire active area. Not the back of his staff, but at least the front. Otherwise, for a boss, he's actually not able to hit you that much at all. So yeah, that's pretty cool. We're going to add something here as well. So I'm going to unpack this prefab, and I'm going to add a box collider. Looks pretty good. I'm going to make it a tiny bit smaller. Not that much smaller. So 0.4, 0.5. There we go. Perfect. And the reason I'm doing this is because in the second phase with the animations I'm using, I want him to drop the weapon. Now, we can't simply use the character attachment action for this because it's actually, a model inside of a melee module weapon, so it just simply doesn't work. But I want him to drop it simply because it looks cooler, it looks nice. So in order to do that, we're going to add another bool, basically, and that's going to be this. So boss phase 2, value turned off. So this is going to be the bool. You can name it whatever you want, of course. I align it to NPC as well. And the idea here is that once phase 2 triggers, we're going to be dropping that weapon. Now, it's just not as simple as you'd hope it to be, so that's why we're going to take this approach. When it comes to the rigid body, we're going to add that as well. And his gravity is off, his kinematic is on, and box collider is turned off as well. So by default, basically this box collider rigid body are not going to do anything whatsoever. They will have no impact on the weapon. They will have no impact on the gameplay. They will only start having an impact once we add a trigger here. So trigger, variable change, global variable, phase 2. Now the reason it needs to be a global variable is because there's literally no relation between this prefab model and the actual person using it. In this case, there's just no correlation, no link, so it needs to be a global variable, so we can always call on it. And then we're going to add the condition. And the condition here for the sphere is going to be quite simple. So, bool again, if global variable phase 2 is true, then we're going to set active, and it needs to be component, sorry about that. Enable component, going to drag in that sphere, and that needs to be our box collider. If the box collider is not turned on, the rigid body won't properly function either. And then we can do rigid body, which will allow us to change some properties, and that's what we'll need to do. And for the properties, mass, we can do 20, I don't know. Doesn't matter all that much. Gravity going to be turned on. Is kinematic is going to be turned off. And that's it. That will basically make it a object that, can drop. And in order for it to actually, stay on the floor and not in his hands, we're going to do a transform action. And let's just drag in a spare just to be sure. And we're going to do clear parent. And that means that this model will be completely cleared from this hierarchy and will become part of our base hierarchy, meaning it's no longer tied to our character. And yeah, that's how he's going to let go. Now in phase 2, we're going to switch melee weapons, as in melee module weapons anyway. So it won't be needed anymore. But I thought it was a cool touch for him to actually leave the weapon lying on the floor instead of it just magically disappearing. I thought it was a cool touch. You could even go as far as actually make that something you can pick up. You can actually pick up his weapon if you want to. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, as you can see, we need to do it kind of a workaround in order for that to actually work. We can't simply use the detach action. So it works. It's a really small workaround, so not a big deal. So yeah, let's see if it actually is placed correctly into his hands. Oh, sorry about that. Let's make sure it's actually correctly placed. And it would help if we actually would drag that prefab in for it to actually be visible. That would be nice. There we go. Perfect. At the same time, let's also remove this one. So he's going to be blocking, and we can change all of these position offsets. So he's going to be blocking with the actual weapon. Yeah, that's it. He's going to be blocking with the actual weapon, so nothing else. Let's make sure we also assign this new shield and drag in the correct locomotion. I was skipping ahead a lot of steps here. There we go. So that's cool. He's in his pose. I think this looks pretty awesome. Let's see what happens when we approach him. He's going to get up, and yeah, he's going to be ready. So when it comes to his behavior, let's actually inspect him. So as you can see, this is not properly triggering anything. So there's a couple of things that simply don't work. So we'll need to fix that. Obviously, the behavior was far from ready. But yeah, pretty cool. We're in the correct phase now, so we can actually continue with the rest. But it looks pretty awesome. I thought it was a pretty nice animation as well for him to get up. I thought it looked pretty cool. Awesome. Now we need to make sure we have some new melee clips as well, as obviously these won't work. So what we did here is we have a C, A, and B. So we need to create those clips. We also need a new block state for him, basically. So let's start off with that. So let's create a new state, simple state. There we go. And we're going to rename this to boss1 block. There we go. We can drag that in. And it's going to be one of the two-handed animations. Let's collapse the entire Infinity PBR here. Longsword animations, and there we go. We have block loop. And that's perfect. That's what we need. That's literally what we need. So let's drag that in. Perfect. And yeah, that's it. That's a perfect block animation. Looks really simple but effective. So yeah, that's fine. So we have our block animation now. Now we need to create some clips. So I'm just simply going to be duplicating several that we'll need. So we need a block hit reaction. We need a hit reaction. We need no perfect block. We need a simple attack. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We've pretty much got everything covered here. Cool. So let's rename this to block hit reaction. There we go. Let's rename this to just hit reaction. And boss01A. And yeah, as you might guess, duplicate that to AA. Duplicate that, and again duplicate. So we have C here and B. Cool. So we have all of our clips. So that's good. Let's drag them in. We still need to obviously assign animations to them. But at least this way we're sure we're not forgetting anything. And there we go. Now, I think one of the important things obviously is going to be with these clips is that we need to make sure that at least the B clip, the C clip, which is not going to have a block state, needs to be a bit slower before it actually is active. So we do have some time at least to anticipate the attack and either block or dodge. But yeah, we need to have a tiny bit of time for that. When it comes to the actions, obviously we need to on execute, focus, invoker, release target, and yeah, let's make sure that's on all of them. Perfect. And yeah, then it's time for us to basically just find some animations that work well. I looked up a couple of them that I think are pretty good. So we can do, if you're going to use the same animation pack, of course, that is would be the requirement. Otherwise, you need to look up some of the others you'd like to use. So we're going to do Long's attack PRD2. There we go. Which I will preview anyway, because we need to actually see when the active part is. So yeah, it's a nice swing. As you can see, it's a bit slow because of that swing, so we do have some time to anticipate. So this is the active, going to be the active part. I'm just going to drag this out. Yeah, so here's going to be the active, and this is where it stops. Now I'm going to make all of these, because they're the boss, uninterruptible, and that is a choice. He will be vulnerable, by the way, so yes, we can still attack him, but we can't stop his animations. And that's, you know, a simple tactic that a lot of these games do for boss battles. You can't actually interrupt them. In some games you can, but it makes it so that, you know, they're powerful. They will, you know, continue their shit anyway, even if you, you know, if you attack them in the meantime. So again, that kind of combines the whole high risk, high reward, because, you know, you can still attack them, but you're at your own peril. Perfect. So the first one in this A is going to be him standing still. He's not even going to move, which I thought was a nice touch. And then for the second one, we'll need Long's again, attack. And we're going to do L3. There we go. And in L3, as you can see, there's a move. But again, this is a move that, you know, there's a bit of anticipation here, which I think works well. You know, the boss needs to be powerful, but he shouldn't be invincible. If he's also really fast with his animations, you know, we hardly stand a chance, pretty much. And there we go. Again, uninterruptible, so we can't interrupt him. And yeah, that's it. There we go. Cool. Perfect. And oh, I did this with B instead of AA. That's my bad. So let's just rename this. That should have been AA. So let's rename this to B now. So what I found for C, so I know we're skipping B for the moment, was actually this one, and I thought it was a pretty nice one. So I'm just going to look up Trust 2 here. There we go. I thought that was a pretty good animation. As you can see, there's quite a bit of a delay before it actually becomes active, which makes it so that you know, we have some time to anticipate this attack, and that's quite key, because, you know, it's slightly out of sync with the rest of the attacks, as in he won't be blocking first, so that, you know, makes it dangerous, but it should be at least a bit predictable. Because if, you know, we can't predict the move at all, then basically he's just going to hit us every single time, which is also no fun. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool for the C clip. Then for the B clip, which is basically just going to be a secondary attack after the block, I didn't really have a perfect one in mind yet. I played around with it a bit, and basically there's a couple of things we can do. The downside with double attacks is always going to be, well, that whole period should be active if it's in one animation. But as you can see, when it comes to the you know, sheer amount of attacks, there's not that many. But I thought I was just going to keep it with this one. It's, it's pretty simple. I'm going to use the D2 because it's just slightly slower. But it seems, it seems powerful at least. So yeah, that's the one that's going to be. This one was really nice as well, but yeah, it's too long of an active period. So we're going to do long attack D2. So let's look that up. Perfect. Extract, let's make sure preview is on. I'm going to extend this again. I'm going to look up the part where he's active, and that's here. So yeah, even this could have been used as a C, if you really wanted to. It's a really short active period with quite of a big anticipation, which is nice. That's pretty cool. Yeah, let's make sure all of these are uninterruptible, by the way. And yeah, there we go. So we have his move set basically for phase one of this battle. And yeah, that's actually pretty much it. There's not much else to do. Now, when it comes to phase two, that's obviously going to be slightly more challenging. So what is that going to look like, and how are we going to do that? So pretty exciting stuff. So let's have a look back at our behavior here. Like I mentioned before, this is going to be our trigger. So this is basically going to dictate, hey, we're starting phase two of the battle here. How are we going to decide that? So for one, condition is going to be quite important as well, of course. So phase two needs to be turned off. So because if we're in phase two, otherwise this would always take priority. So we need to make sure that the bool, at least of phase two, is turned off. So this can only trigger one time, and that's it. Now we're going to use the same stop gesture in order to make sure the attacks are not going to be playing here. Going to keep that small 0.1 fade. Then we're going to do something weird. So we're basically going to set invincibility on the invoker for like 10 seconds. I know that's a bit odd, but basically I don't want, because otherwise you could have time to basically finish him off during the animation, which would make phase two, not really important whatsoever. We're going to release our focus as well. So focus, there we go. So we're going to lose the focus, otherwise he will keep spinning around. And we're going to create a new state, which is going to be his KO state. And for the KO state, I'll leave a small transition of 0.1, just really small. And when it comes to his KO state, I'm not sure if I already created that, yes or no. I don't think I did. So we'll just create that here. Or we can just put it in here. Which is going to be a simple state. Let's rename this to KO. And for KO, we're going to use one of the death animations. And no, I think it was not actually a death animation. Yeah, there we go. KO. Yeah. Or was it KO air? Nah, that's a bit much. He's a big guy. It wouldn't make sense for him to jump that high. So cool. We'll be KO1. There we go. And that's going to be his state. Now, the reason that's going to be his state, and let's drag in KO1. So the reason, yeah, let's just make sure I didn't mix anything up. Yeah. So the reason this is going to be a state is because he needs to lay on the ground for a while. Otherwise, we kind of lose the impact of this being a big thing. For safety, I'm going to put it to layer 3 just so it will supersede anything else, just to avoid any complications. So let's leave him on the ground for, I'm going to do 6 seconds. I know that's a bit long, seems a bit long. It doesn't take that long, but I know it seems like that. Then we need to activate that bolt that lets him drop the weapon. Quite important, actually. Yeah, no, it was a global variable, phase 2. There we go. So that needs to be activated because he needs to drop the weapon. And then we're going to do a gesture. Invoker. And the importance of this gesture, again, is that we turn off the fades. These need to be pretty well synced because the fades will actually cause some strange complications if we have them. Now, I am going to use one of the We Make the Games animation packs here. Again, you don't have to use this one. You can use whatever you want. But if you just want to, replicate what I did, yeah, this is the one I'm going to use. It's actually a zombie animation pack, but it just looks incredibly cool. So it's Zombie Reborn. That is the gesture we're going to use. There we go. And the important thing is to, for this case, we're going to leave this on. But for the combat animations, if you are using the same pack, by the way, you need to make sure that that's turned off. So in order to avoid any issues there, make sure that root position on X, Z is not turned on. Cool. So yeah, the reason I'm going to use this one is because the Reborn, look at it. It looks incredibly cool. It looks really freaky, and yeah. Now, the nice thing here is that the pose, it starts straight away, so that, there's no time in between. The pose is really similar to the KO pose of that we're using for the longsword animation pack. It's incredibly similar ground pose. It just matches perfectly. So pretty lucky. Otherwise, you'd have to do some animation editing to make it sync up better. But yeah, really lucky here, and it's just a really, really cool animation. Then what we need to do next in order to avoid any visual glitches is going to be a bit weird, but we need to basically set a new default state. And that needs to happen straight after this finishes. Again, that's why we can't afford to have any fade-in times. This needs to happen instantly, and if you don't do this, basically you will have like a tenth of a second where you'll have a small visual glitch. And it just took me a while to actually discover how to not have that visual glitch, because it's just really annoying. So this is where we need to set our new default state for the character. This is going to be the exact same state that we're using for his second melee weapon of phase 2. So nothing new there. And basically we're just going to create boss locomotion 2. So boss 2 locomotion. There we go. And what we're going to drag in here are simply the the zombie animations. So there's not that many. So if you have a different pack for walking, I would actually advise that, because it's actually quite limited in terms of the animations that are being used for walk. There's no directional, so luckily that's not actually often used. But still, if you have another zombie pack, you might want to match a bit. But I didn't want to go all too crazy with animation packs. And yeah, then we're simply going to drag in all of the walk animations. And I'm going to skip forward a bit so you don't have to see me drag drop I don't know how many animations. Cool, and this is what it looks like once completed. Again, like I said, there's not a lot of variation here, but basically we just have these run animations and these walk animations and the idle. And that's it. You know, there's really is nothing else to it. So we're going to drag that in real quick. So we're going to drag that in as his new default. Then we're going to have him draw a new weapon. So yeah, as you might guess, he needs a new melee weapon. So we can duplicate this already. So we at least reference, so boss 2. So we at least reference the correct weapon in our behavior straight away, so we don't have to go back to that. Draw weapon, invoker, and that's going to be boss 2. Then we're going to do another gesture here, simply because it looks cool. It adds no other value than simply just looking cool, which is going to be, I'm just going to look it up like this, scream. And let's make sure we select the humanoid. There we go. I'm going to increase this a bit, the fade times, because otherwise it just doesn't look that good. And then we're going to assign bool to phase 2, which will then trigger this part of our behavior. And there we go. So yeah, it's quite a bit of a, you know, quite a bit of a couple of steps here that we need to perform. But all of this should work well. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to test this. We're going to see if it's all working. We're going to see if we have any behavioral issues or anything like that we should fix straight away. And then we can actually check out our combat. So yeah, pretty cool. I should have turned off, by the way, the UI from the start, so we'll do that after. So as you can see, he's in his blocking state, and then he's going to be attacking us, which is really nice. That's something we still need to turn off. His hit reactions are wrong. So yeah, that's something we need to change. Obviously, you know, the damage he's doing is something we'll need to add as well, but we'll do that at the very end. It's a big opening here where he's just not doing anything. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Okay, so he was attacking, it just took a while. Yeah, that's a big opening. That's a bit strange. Yeah, these are the wrong hit animations because, you know, you can see clearly the effect. He's not able to do anything to us, which is absolutely no fun for a boss battle. So we'll change that. Don't worry about it. And yeah, this is his the start of phase 2. And as you can see, he drops the actual prefab here of the spare. Yeah, we still have this wrong default, but we had the scream. It's a good start, but far from perfect. So let's first fix everything we need to fix, because there's actually quite a lot of things we need to fix here when it comes to our boss battle. So let's start off with his hit reaction. So that was one of the things that was definitely off. So we're going to make the hit reactions a lot shorter. It took a while to actually find a short hit reaction clip, because most of these clips are just long from this pack, which normally is great, don't get me wrong. But sometimes, you know, it's a bit too much. So these are really short. It's interruptible, vulnerable, but he's going to be steady, and that's quite an important thing. He shouldn't be in a stagger state. He's steady, meaning he can attack quickly. Otherwise, you know, if we can just stagger him constantly, there's not much of combat going on there. Um, that's something we could have used for our other default NPC as well, by the way, but it's not really cool. I thought the step back was a lot cooler because you do want to stagger normal enemies. A big boss like that, I don't want to be able to stagger him. So yeah, we can deal damage. He gets hit, but he'll be able to attack us. When it comes to the block hit reaction, it's going to be pretty much the default here. So uninterruptible, invincible, and steady. That's all good. We just need to change which one it is. Longs block impact. There we go. Extract root motion, and yeah, everything else will remain the same. Now we need to assign these, of course. So let's make sure we actually assign everything here. And I just noticed I actually dropped in the wrong clips here. That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to rename this because I can't actually differentiate if I'm dragging in the correct one. It's boss hit reaction. There we go. I'm going to drop that in for knockback as well. That's basically the easiest thing. I don't want a knockback whatsoever, but I don't want to change anything on the weapons. So basically a really simple way to avoid that type of, having to do too much to change that mechanic is simply just have a normal hit reaction in knockback. And then, basically he won't have a knockback. It really comes down to that. Because if he doesn't have a knockback, then animation, then it's not going to be any different from any of the other ones. That way we don't have to mess with any of the other stats. It's a pretty simple way to do it. When it comes to his shield, so we'll need to drag in block hit reaction. We're going to do that for perfect block clip as well. And can we just remove these? I think we can simply just remove these. I don't want him to have a perfect block whatsoever. It's just the first boss. He shouldn't be too crazy. So let's see if we can just turn it all off. Maybe that's a better idea. Cool. So yeah, fairly simple. So let's actually have a look at how the combat plays out now. And let's make sure that this one at least has the correct locomotion. It's all synced. There we go. No melee weapon for this one. And yeah, everything else is fine for now. So let's have a look. Cool. Perfect. As you can see, we can still hit him, obviously, but it's not staggering him. Meaning, because it's not staggering him, we can't actually, he can still perform his attacks as well. And we can, just perform dodges, etc. Wish I just would have, removed his health just a tiny bit. Okay. And yeah, she'll sort of remove the prefab, but you get the point. It all syncs really well. It looks creepy. It looks cool. So that's really nice. Now, one of the things I do want to check actually is when it comes to his blocking, it didn't really seem like he was able to block, which is a bit strange, but yeah, he didn't actually seem able to block whatsoever. There we go. So now at least he's blocking. That was a bit strange. I'm going to put my behavior on my second screen just because I want to see what's going on here with his behavior, because there seems to be a bit of a he's not doing anything in certain tasks, and that's it seems like there's one task where he's just not performing anything, and that's why it looks like he's just standing around for quite a long time. So that's a task we need to fix. A bit confused as well as to why. Yeah, so cool. So C is just not executing. I can't really explain that. So, there we go. That's really stupid of me. Apologies for that. I forgot to change combo C. So that's why there were basically 2 seconds where he's just not moving at all, and he was just idling by. So that explains a lot. And yeah, we still need to do damage, etc. of course, but that's something we can do later. But yeah, as you can see, it's a lot trickier to actually attack, and we should be dodging and everything, but we don't have any of those conditions for our player itself yet, so we can just advance. Cool. So makes it a lot more rewarding already. So it's actually going to be a challenging boss fight, which is really good. So we have all of our task 2 actions, so basically to start phase 2. Now we need phase 2 to also do something. And yes, that is going to be really, really similar to before. So we're going to have a task here. We're going to have a random selector here. There we go. We can just copy this over because again, this will all be pretty much the same. Set target, and then we will have the tasks. 1, and I'm just going to make this 3 tasks. So basically, he's going to be a bit more aggressive, just less variation. Going to move towards the player. I'm going to keep this distance a tiny bit smaller, so it will be 2, will be 1.5. He's not using a weapon here. There's no melee weapon. He's just going to use his arms. Zombie type monster mode, whatever you want to call it. So we need this to be tiny bit shorter as well, because yeah, there's no weapon this time around, so he needs to be a tiny bit closer. There we go. The behavior will be a lot simpler. There's no attacking, so no blocking. So we're going to wait 1 second only. As I said, he will be more aggressive, and what our opening will be is that basically after an attack, he'll wait for a bit longer. So we're going to do 3.5 seconds, and that's going to basically be his weak spot. Is that after an attack we have a bit of an opening to actually start attacking him. And yeah, that's pretty much the idea behind it. There we go. And then the same 3.5 seconds. So pretty basic, but again, he's just going full monster mode. So we'll have a bit of time to actually start attacking him. And yeah, that's it. Now what we just need to do is set up a couple of those animations, a couple of those melee clips. So boss 02, and then yeah, let's duplicate these, and we'll just have the 3 in this case. So this will be B, and this will be AA. Now, if you want to make this completely different types of animations, you can just make it more complex, like here. You can add as many tasks if you want to add a lot of diversity. That's up to you. Cool. Yeah, we need to have that that condition here as well, because otherwise it's just going to look weird. Now, when it comes to this zombie animation pack, I think the quality of the animations are great. It's just there's just not a lot of them, which is kind of a downside in a way. So yeah, let's drag this in. And B, can remove this one. Yeah, there's just not that many animations, which is the only downside. So we can duplicate this one as well. Just simple 2. We don't have to do any blocking things here, as he's not going to be able to block. Drag in hit reaction 2, which we'll still need to assign, but that's completely fine. Perfect. There we go. We're going to use the same prefab as this one. So we're going to duplicate this, drag it here to boss 1. We're going to rename this to boss 2 prefab, because basically we're just going to be using claws here. This needs to be right hand, of course. That's the only change we need to make. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's drag that in as well. There we go. Obviously, we're not going to have any weapons in his hand, no model or anything like that. It's just going to be his claws. And yeah, let's look up some of these clips. Again, like I said, there's not that many. So I'm not going to do the biting attacks, but we basically have 3 attacks, and that's all we have anyway in this pack. But it's a zombie pack, so you can mix and match. I'm using this one because of the freaky get up animation, but also because even the attacks that are there are kind of in the trend of at least the other ones, as in big anticipation moment before we can actually do something, which I think is pretty cool. It kind of matches the longsword in that sense. So we're going to start off with this as a zombie attack 3 is going to be A. Then this is going to be AA, or this should be AA. This is going to be AA. And then this is going to be B, because it's it's just different. And yeah, that's it. So let's start assigning them. So zombie attack. Make sure you select the humanoid ones. So yeah, we'll pick this one as A actually. Cool. We'll need to do this. I'm just going to assign them first. And then 3, a humanoid, and 2, the humanoid, and there we go. Everything else remains the same. There's not going to be any difference here. The only thing we have to do is actually match the active area of these animations. So yeah, let's drag in our character here, preview. That's the thing, the quality of these animations are just really, really cool. I just wish there was a bit more in terms of attacks. So this is going to be his active area. So let's do, yeah, something like this actually. Okay. And then he's going back, so yeah, that's it. Big anticipation moment. Yeah, and that's it. Cool. For AA. Perfect. And yeah, that's it. And then for 2A. Short moment. Again, all of these big anticipation, and it kind of matches, matches the rest. So that's at least cool. So yeah, that's it in terms of the variation here. So we have our two phases. Now what we need to do next is simply, make sure that something happens when he dies completely. Now, we had this, we did this in the last video. So we're going to stop his gesture, and that's simply what I'm going to do. And we're going to do a death animation. Now there's a couple of ones we can use, which I think are pretty cool. Yeah, let's do focus here as well, by the way. So invoker, release target, or just boss, the character, release in this case. And then player as well. There we go. Cool. Let's find a good animation that fits. So there's a couple ones we can use. That makes 0 sense in this case. It's all really, really far. Like, my God. It's all really far. Okay, at least, yeah. I'm going to use this one. Yeah, I think the other ones are all extremely extreme. Would make sense for something else, just not really for this. Cool. So yeah, this will be our death state, and yeah, we're going to be done. That's it. So let's disable the character component on the boss. And yeah, we're done. Cool. So let's have a go at it. I know, we're basically still invincible as a player, making this not all that challenging in a way. And that's okay. That's completely fine. This is all testing anyway. When it comes to damage output, numbers, things like that, we can all change that whenever we want. Cool. So we can do our counter. And again, as you can see by the damage output, doing 20k health on the boss actually, is not too much. It's completely fine to do that. Because, he's taking hits rather quickly anyway, so yeah. Cool. Oh yeah, the hit reaction is still the wrong animation, so we'll just drag in something new. We're not going to test it again. Yeah, and you could make it, a bit more interesting by basically having, when he does the grab, that you actually need to dodge that rather, or that it breaks the shields. We've done that on the enemy as well, with the enemy having attacks like that. So that's something we can do, which is, cool. I'm just going to try to finish him off again, And yeah, that is it, and he's dead. So again, his health is way too low for a boss battle, of course, but otherwise this would just take too long with the video. But yeah, pretty cool having a multi-phase boss battle. So now let's make sure we just fix that last hit reaction with a proper animation. So let's pick a hit animation that works. So zombie. Now, as you can see, when it comes to hit animations, they do have a crazy amount, which is, you know, really cool. I'm just going to do hit body front. There we go. Simple. And there we go. So yeah, we basically have everything now. So I think that's you know, pretty cool. We have a boss battle that you know, has two phases, some, you know, nice twists here and there. Obviously, you know, a lot of it does rely on animation. You can make it as complex and difficult as you want, of course. I think the real highlight here is basically just, you know, having those two phases of the battle. You know, being able to get damage in, but him you know, not being staggered from this damage, I think is, you know, a big difference compared to the normal enemies as well. Because if we do the stagger, then we basically just, you know, would have been able to hit on the boss, making attacking less, you know, high risk, high reward type thing. The fact that it is, you know, does make it, you know, quite a cool battle, I think. And yeah, how much actual health you want to give him obviously is going to have quite a big impact on how difficult this will really be. But yeah, I think it's fun to do it like this, quite radically different. Now, what we're going to do for the next you know, for the next video, is we're finally going to set up those UI. So we're going to have our inventory. We're going to have our HUD as well. You know, the HUD being quite important, obviously, which means we'll also have to double check the last bits of, you know, damage output, health, things like that. Something worth having a look at. We could do the next video or the video after, just those final touches on those fronts. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.